1,000 square feet. Lot width is 75 feet. Front yard setback is 25 feet from the edge of the right-of-way, as well as, actually, the side yards are 10 feet, and the rear yard is 35 feet, and the building height is 30 feet in the residential area. So those remain the same.
So there's no changes in any of those things right there?
No changes.
So does everybody understand that? I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, so, you know, everybody fears changes. Right now, there is no change in those areas. What else?
The commercial, again, we remain, everything is, we kept things mostly the same. Minimum front yard, Kuching County, they were measuring, there's differing right-of-ways depending on the height of the road. So I reckon we set it at 25 feet, which should be equal, actually a little bit less. Side yard, I guess we did increase it 5 feet, partially because we're decreasing the minimum rear yard from 35 feet to 10 feet. Building height is the same. So buildable space of a lot, or usable space for parking and access and stuff, should probably increase a little bit. You still have a maximum lot coverage of 50%.
Question. What happens if something is already built, already in, and it doesn't conform to the new figures? Because I see it goes from what, 10 feet to 15 feet? Is 15 feet in Ranier on the side or back spacing?
They would be allowed to continue.
I wasn't there down, there's an instance where I think that's, would be violated.
Sorry, what?
When it burned down, they rebuilt those.
If they applied for a building permit within 180 days, they could rebuild it to the same footprint.
Why 180 days? Why can't it be, 10 years?
Well, 180 days is what is the state law. Now, you could make it a year.
Okay,
You could
make it longer.
10 years. But 180 days is what the state requires as basically a minimum.
You can make it longer.
But you could.
One other question, on the stuff that's red, and I think it,
Yeah.
does it correlate with what we have on this map?
No, this is out by the highway.
Okay.
And we'll look at that map a little because that, based on some of the comments, I've kind of consolidated those colors into one. So this is the commercial zoning that is currently along Highway 11, as well as would be coming up a little bit of the county state aid highway on the other side of town.
I have a question. Are you going to replace parcel highway roads?
The city, the Notary County. What do you mean, replace parts of Highway 11? That's a state highway, so the MnDOT is responsible for
Because
it.
that road is above property line.
So what?
Above property line.
It comes into your property line?
It's above property line. Years ago, we used to have a roll where someone was, the rain had come up the thing, up the rain up the highway road knees, plus all the snow, and then it runs down into people's yards.
Well,
Guys are above property line.
the condition and maintenance of the highway is in the state of Minnesota.
And the road and the ditches there are not properly.
It's the state of Minnesota's issue.
Yes.
So the city doesn't have much control over that, or doesn't have any control.
Josh, that pertain now to the area along Highway 11. Was there any changes in the setbacks or for Old Ranier?
Let me go back
The grandfather, I think we all understand the grandfather. There were no setbacks in Old Ranier. Are there going to be now?
Well, yes, let me go back to, okay, so this is,
In the proposal, I mean.
yeah, these are the proposed kind of basic zoning, setbacks and everything for Old Ranier. These are based kind of on a couple things. One is, when we first started talking about this district, the existing development pattern, especially with a lot of smaller lots, came up, and we wanted to maintain the existing development pattern. I've looked at the temporary zoning ordinance that was adopted in 1976 and then expired, and this is really similar or the same as that ordinance. New residential lots would be 50 by 125 feet for 6,250 square feet, which is a fairly small, in most of these, residential lot. Now Ranier has a lot of 25-foot lots. Those can be developed. And then commercial lots, there's no minimum area. You just have to be able to meet setbacks and impervious surface, so that would, depending on the size of your building, would control the size of your lot. That's in line with what the city had adopted temporarily in 1976, I think it was. It's also in line with a lot of downtown commercial areas where commercial buildings don't have a lot of. Front yard setbacks are 10 feet. Side yards, again, would be 5 feet for residential, 0 for commercial, except where they adjoin a residential, like an existing residential side yard. The reason why it's 0 feet for commercial is, again, because in a lot of traditional downtowns, they allow them to build the buildings right up to the line, and that's where you kind of get that street front. Rear yard, 5 feet, that's probably the same, or would be, most people probably have a larger rear yard than 5 feet. Building height is 35 feet. Under the old ordinance, it was 30 feet for residential and 35 for commercial. Because we're trying to make this generally one district, we're going to let the residential go higher. Lot coverage, that's the amount of basically buildings and other things on a lot, is 35% for 1 and 2 family homes. That's really the standard in most places, and would also kind of be the standard for the shoreland ordinance.
Excuse me, Josh, I got to clarify something. When I said there was no ordinance in Old Rainier, no setbacks, what happened, 1 year there was passed that he keeps referring to like a 30-foot setback. There was an ordinance passed for 1 year, but it expired. That had some of these setbacks and stuff on that, but that expired. That's what he's referred to, what we used to have. It was for a 1 year period, and it expired after that.
And, maybe going back to the 76 ordinance, you said it might not make sense because it's been so long, but we developed pretty similar setbacks with the committee before even looking at that ordinance. And again, what that's based on is was trying to keep in line with what has already been developed here.
Yeah, I understand that, Josh, but I just want to clarify that, currently there are none, but these would be changes, and those would be what would be the required setbacks for Old Rainier.
Yes.
Setbacks from what?
Setbacks, in this case, from your property. So downtown, property lines in downtown will basically run to the edge of the sidewalk or the curb, depending on where that is. So your property will start at the edge of the sidewalk and go back 100 feet. So you can build a building up to 5 feet near the front, and then the side, is your sidewalk.
Okay, I get that. So in your statement now, you're stating that we are going to have sidewalks and curbs also?
No, but generally, you would measure from the edge of the road. So in places where there is a curb, that's an easy way to measure. Or where there is a sidewalk, that's an easy way to measure.
The question is, where do I find in the land use ordinance that refers to keeping the air and the water free of pesticide, poisons, and other contaminants from the industrial properties? Where is that in this ordinance?
Under section 4, we have a list of performance standards that really apply to all uses, but would mostly be looked at for the industrial uses, and that's basing it on state of Minnesota standards for noise, smoke, dust, vibration, and stuff like that.
That is, to me, avoiding the obvious. The obvious is dust is a given. If we walk through this room, we're going to have dust. If you create a business that gives off toxic fumes, we have that doesn't fit underneath dust.
There's fumes and smoke, and there's
And they're toxic and they're lethal. What are we doing in our ordinance that is this long that addresses the issue of the safety of the lives and health of the people in this area?
well, with an ordinance, or even without it, if a business is, or a property or something is emitting toxic fumes or pollution, you can report that to the state of Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, or you can report it to the county health. With an ordinance, you can make if you think that someone is polluting or is using the property in a manner that they said they were not going to, so they said, I just worked in a city where there's a crematorium, and that's supposed to really not release any smoke or odor. But if it does, you could file a complaint with the city, and the city, could check that out. Now, in order to determine something toxic, you're probably going to have to call the state aid, so.
Yes, sir, what?
What kind of teeth will the ordinance, I'll admit it, and I bet there are a lot of people in this room that get the first work of a citizen in CN ever. All of our tires leak from them over those tracks, they're loud, they're noisy, they haven't lifted a finger to really do anything about it. What kind of teeth will these ordinances have on them? And that's the worst, by far, the biggest offense.
The operation of the railroad, to be honest, none.
Okay, so if we're not going to control the biggest elephant in the room, what's the use of trying to control all the lights?
You can say,
Would,
okay, you can make noise, but railroads really, they operate almost exclusively under federal law. There are statutes that really set railroads aside for themselves. It's an issue that you have to work with your state and federal lawmakers or with the railroad. There are some things about blocking the tracks and stuff that are in law, but it does take a long time to build it.
I'm just saying that that's the biggest elephant in the room, and we're chasing, it's almost like we're chasing pennies and passing up $100 bills, so I go for the
well,
railroad.
Wood, I'd like to address that. First of all, there's things that we can control, there's things that we can't control, but on the railroad issue, we've made some great strides on that, whether you're aware of it or not.
Makes what?
Great strides on the railroad.
I haven't seen it.
Well, I know that because you must be too busy not paying attention.
No,
No, listen.
I go across those tracks every day, my tires are leaking,
Wood.
I haven't seen anything.
They've reduced their travel time recently. Now, the customs been tracking this. We've cut almost 2 hours off the crossing time. We've managed to get what they call a continuous pull. So the Canadian crews are switching south of town now. 4 to 8 weeks now. I was notified last Friday. 4 to 8 weeks. They ordered the planks. The crossing will be installed 4 to 8 weeks from now. The rubber planks and the planking. The quiet zone will be installed in the same time. So that, they ordered it, the engineering, as you see that pipe sticking up, that's for electronics. So we will be receiving a quiet zone.
They want to pay for my tires are all leaking. They want to pay for
What happened in the past, I can't do nothing about
We've got
that.
a
Okay?
county engineer in Joe Sutherland that won't enforce county law. He won't, and our city, it was never like this before, Rimbo. It was never a bad crossing before. We hadn't put up with it for 2 years. That's terrible.
I'm telling you, I addressed it. They've ordered the planks, 4 to 8 weeks. They'll be installed. We've already told them.
Summer's gone.
All right.
Anyway.
Yes, Tara.
Thank you for that. You're calling the planks what they're putting between the tracks?
That's correct.
So that we'll have a smoother crossing?
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of state rules and federal rules that go along with that. There's going to be a medium set up. You know, there's a continuous ring on the bell that I got eliminated so that it only rings when it's down. They were going to have it ring for 30 minutes or while the train was on the site. There's been all kinds of issues that have been addressed. But again, you're dealing with a big beast there, and it is not easy to do. They've been in this room, I think, 6 times we've had it before. They've never been able to even get him to answer a phone. And so we've made great strides with the railroad. And when we get the crossing and the crossing arms and the new planks in, it'll be a breath of fresh air for everybody. And I hit the same bumps you do, so I preach about it every time.
Not as much. But, I still.
Anyway, we're here about the zoning,
Yeah.
and we've got the setbacks, and is there any other questions on this one? Otherwise, there's been those are the changes for Old Ranier. Basically, the other area didn't change, as you know, very, very, very little, where he pointed out what they were. Those are the proposed changes for Old Ranier area. And if any questions on them, that would just be on the setbacks. I think we all understand the grandfather. If there was questions on the 180 days, good question. It can be changed to whatever. If it burns down, you can rebuild. The time frame, there's no mandatory time frame, I guess. It just
180 days is the minimum, we could make it longer, but not shorter.
okay. Again, there's some variances, and it provides for the due process of variance and stuff like that. So, any more discussion on this one? Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next one. We all got a pretty good, clear understanding of it. If there's questions, I want to hear them. So,
If you want a variance,
Yes,
Woods,
sir.
Ranier, Minnesota,
Yes,
if you
sir.
want a variance in the new city, how much is it gonna cost?
Mr. Burke said, can you help us on that? Is there? He asked if there's a variance, how much it's going to cost. Or Cheryl, do you have?
Josh and the committee, I guess, came up with the proposed fee schedule, which is, nobody's, yeah. And, it looks like the variance would be $100.
Like the counties?
Is that, I think it's.
Counties is $100.
$100.
But how much it's gonna cost the city?
Pardon me?
How much will it cost the city? Because I know you have to post the ad in for about $250. Then you have to pay the planning commission for reviewing it.
So it should probably be higher, huh? I mean, these aren't.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, when you put this stuff in, then I think it's gonna cost the city money plus the district cost.
So maybe we should capture those costs in.
Well, that's why you should make sure and adopt it, because you want to expand the cost of putting a building up if you need a variance. I mean, shouldn't the city be picking up that tab totally?
Shouldn't happen very often, one would hope, huh?
Well, of course, like you said, there's fees attached. I don't know if there's been any price on our building permits and things like that. So there's probably going to be
That's good.
a schedule of costs, whether we should be charging. And again, that I really don't think the city should be going backwards for some of the expenses. I would guess at any time we could waive a fee if we chose to. It's no different than rent on this room when the orchestra wants to play for the city. We generally waive the fees and things like that. So we do have powers to waive fees and everything else. But right now there is a schedule. I don't know if you have the schedule.
No, because I don't think even the council's even looked at that yet. It's just kind of a proposed one that's not really, hasn't really been passed out much yet.
But I'm in agreement with you. Once we determine what the cost would be to the city, I think that should be at least the cost of the fee. If we
And
have
that
to
could
run
be,
after
that could be quite a bit of money, Dennis.
whatever it is. I think that's it. But again, we haven't discussed that.
Okay, my next question is, the map here, when you zone properties commercial that were residential, are there taxes going up for that?
What Steve Blair explained a little bit about that last time, the taxes are based on the use of the property rather than how it's owned. So if you're not using it as a commercial property, then it's not taxed
So-
commercial.
The use determines the tax base, not the,
So in other words, you
not
would
the
have to
zoning.
report to the village, I mean, if uses that maybe would come under commercial, that you're, maybe some people, that they have a hobby, it might be like, if it's commercial, well, then it's commercial, if you're in a resident commercial zone, that's used residential.
I'm not sure what triggers that. I'm kind of thinking more business licenses and things like that, maybe, but that's a good.
But there's a lot of people in this town who have no business licenses who work, they're handy people, you know.
But yeah, no, but I'm not sure what triggers the tax assessor to change it. It's something that the tax assessor.
Definitely not
changes.
zoning.
And then,
It's not
then-
zoning, though, yeah.
the other thing is about Old City of Ranier. When people bought into the Ranier, they were well aware that Ranier had no zoning, okay?
Mhm.
And I'm one of them. I bought a lot of property in Ranier. Now, when you take away my flexibility about and other people like me, and say I gotta be either commercial or residential, aren't you taking away something economically?
I don't see where I.
Well, I mean, if you lose your flexibility to do
Yeah, and
stuff.
that's
go for
what we had up there, is
residential.
how much flexibility you're losing, whether you build 5 feet or no feet from the thing. I think we, like on the setbacks and things like that.
And when people move from California to Montana, now they want to stop the hunting. I get what you're saying. Hey,
And
I
on
guess
this-
I don't know how to, I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, on this map here, which is really a central thing about this whole zoning process, as a landowner right here, nobody's ever contacted me about input for how this map should have been drawn out, and I own a lot of property right here. And it looks to me like.
Well, maybe we can get some explanation on that and how the map was arrived and derived and such. I think Josh can answer that.
Yeah,
Or